we explore the difference between select, choice, and prime pieces of meat. That's this time on USDA has at least 6 grades of beef that I've been able to find. I've found sites that set up towards a 12, but they seem a little bit picky. The 6 grades of beef that the USDA recognizes are starting off at the worst is canner, then commercial, then utility, then select, choice, and last prime. Canner is kind of what it sounds like. Really couldn't find any pictures to show you of it, but I know what they use it to make is processed meats like hot dogs. So you can imagine what it looks like. Next one up is called commercial, and kind of like its name suggests again, that's where the majority of your hamburger comes from. It's sold in the stores. Now you're beginning to see why I've decided to start grinding my own. Then after that is utility. Utility is, I found one little video on it, and it's kind of like the ghost of the grades. I don't even know what it's used for, and so I have nothing to tell you about it. But then comes select and choice and prime, the 3 that you should know about. The main difference between utility and lessers and select and better is age and the amount of intermuscular fat that are known to you and me as marbling. Anything that is over 30 months of age at the time of its demise cannot be select or better. All select or better pieces of meat are less than 30 months old. Actually, when you get into prime, they're 28 months or less. But the 2 main factors is, as I said, time and intermuscular fat. The one video I found on utility, the piece of meat, it looked pretty when you first saw it because it was just this bright red straight across. And that's when the guy pointed out there was no fat or marbling in it. You're like, wow, that's kind of strange. Well, the fat is where the flavor comes from, so you want fat in your meat. I know everybody goes, oh, fat's bad, but actually a little bit of fat's not a bad thing. It's actually where the flavor comes from. And so just to show, to go from utility to select, the select must have 20% more marbling than the utility. So as you can see here on this piece of select meat right here, and I'll bring it in closer too. There's some marbling and stuff, but there's just little flecks here and there, not really a whole lot. So, which brings us to choice. Choice once again must have 40% more marbling than select. As I said, it can't be more than 30 months old, and regularly it's probably about 28 months old as well. And as you can see on this piece right here, there's more intermuscular fat in it, more everything compared to these 2. That's the biggest difference is it's maybe a little younger and it's got more intermuscular fat. Which of course brings us to the prime. Prime has to be 40% more, has to have 40% more intermuscular fat than choice. It's been stated that less than 4% of all cattle in America are good enough to be prime. So you can imagine what prime looks like. Most places you can't even find prime in the supermarkets or the stores because the restaurants all gobble it up. Here in Lubbock, we don't have any really good restaurants, so nobody's gobbling it up. So you can find it. Select is available at your regular old supermarket. That's why there wasn't a brand for it on the side. They, it's not like the supermarkets are going, oh look, we have select meat. No, that's the lesser of the meats. That's the at least you can buy, and so the stores don't really tout it as going, hey, look we got. So you can get it at any supermarket or anything like that. That's what they're going to have. When you get up to the choice pieces of meat, choice meats are usually your butcher will have some if you're lucky enough to have a butcher, which we don't in Lubbock. Our specialty stores like Costco and Sam's will usually carry choice. That's where I got this piece of meat. These, by the way, are all 3 New York strips. And this piece of meat came from Costco. And as I said, you can see the difference between the two with the intermuscular fat and the marbling. And then, as I said, prime is mostly gobbled up by the high-end, the 4- and the 5-star restaurants. But since Lubbock, I've actually heard rumblings there might be one out on the edge of town that's a place like, you know, that would carry this kind of beef, but I've personally never been there. So that brings us to prime, which, as I said, is very, very hard to get some, but here in Lubbock, it's available at Costco and Sam's as well. And as I said, you can see in the prime that there's a whole lot of marbling and stuff like that, which just turns into into a better taste. Now there is, of course, a big price difference between Select, Choice, and Prime. Actually, nice thing about Costco is actually the Choice and the Select. Actually, usually the Choice stuff at Costco costs a little bit less than the Select stuff at the regular supermarket. So not only is it a better piece of meat, you can get it cheaper. The Prime, of course, is more expensive, and as I understand it, rightfully so. There is another unofficial group that's higher than Prime. That's your Kobe. Actually, it's called Wagyu. Wagyu beef is a breed of cattle that is grown up in the mountains of Japan. They said that since there are only small herds living on these really, really tall mountains, so they never come in contact with any other herds or anything, so there's no cross-contamination. So they're basically the same cattle they were way back when. And since they grow up on the top of mountains and stuff, it's really cold up there, they have a lot more fat in them to compensate for the cold. So you get this really, really wonderful piece of meat that almost, when you look at it, seems more like it's more fat than meat. Kobe beef is, as I said, a Japanese invention. They actually take the cattle, and they're aged about 28 to 29 months because apparently they're a smaller breed and they grow slower to come into their meat and everything. But when they do, they're actually in their own little paddocks. They get daily massages and showers and stuff like that. They're really treated really nice, so that the fat is nicely distributed throughout the whole body. That meat can cost $250 per 2 ounces here if you were to get it here in America. So there is American Wagyu, which is Wagyu is the breed. Kobe is the ones that are kind of like Choice and Prime. American Wagyu, which Japan won't let that many Wagyu out, so I think they got like 100 of them or something, and they've been crossing them with Angus beef, Angus cattle. So that's when you buy, it's called American Wagyu. That's why it's so much cheaper than the actual stuff in Japan, because it's not 100% Wagyu beef, but still very tasty as I understand it. So I actually just wanted to make this short video to let you see that, you know, I always wondered when they say, oh, this is Select and this is Choices and this is what, I'm like, yeah, I just want to charge me more for this piece of meat. How do they make a difference? But when you see it, it's actually striking that Select has some marbling in it, but not a lot. The Choice has more marbling, as you can see. It's better without, and then Prime has a lot of marbling. I'm going to try to find a really good picture of the Wagyu beef and stick it up here where you'll see that it's mostly fat. I hear it's wonderful, it melts in your mouth, but alas, I'll probably never know. Okay, well, now that you've seen the difference between Select, Choice, and Prime, you'll be better informed when you go to the store. That's it for this edition of The Gadget Killer.